The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit, Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
While some people were speaking about how the temple was adorned with costly stones and votive offerings, Jesus said, "All that you see here, the days will come when there will not be left a stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down." Then they asked him, "Teacher, when will this happen? And what sign will there be when all these things are about to happen?" He answered, "See that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am he,' and the time has come. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified, for such things must happen first, but it will not immediately be the end." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be powerful earthquakes, famines, and plagues from place to place, and awesome sights and mighty signs will come from the sky. Before all this happens, however, they will seize and persecute you. They will hand you over to the synagogues and to prisons, and they will have you led before kings and governors because of my name. It will lead to your giving testimony. Remember, you are not to prepare your defense beforehand, for I myself shall give you a wisdom in speaking, that all your adversaries will be powerless to resist or refute. You will even be handed over by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair on your head will be destroyed. By your perseverance, you will secure your lives." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Remember, you are not to prepare your defense beforehand, for I shall give you a wisdom in speaking that none of your enemies can refute. Let me ask you something. Are you in the state of grace? Be careful of how you answer, that you don't indict yourself. If you say yes, the Catholic Catechism would find you guilty of the sin of presumption. If you say no, the local authorities could accuse you of some sort of crime. Are you in the state of grace? In 1491, Joan of Arc, a 19-year-old, uneducated peasant girl, was arrested and tried. She said that she was hearing voices from God telling her to bring justice to God's people. And so she was arrested and brought before the court comprised of church hierarchy and civil authorities. And they asked Joan of Arc, "Are you in the state of grace?" Now they've got her. If she says yes, then the church authorities will find her guilty of the sin of presumption. If she says no, then the civil authorities will arrest her for witchcraft. Joan, are you in the state of grace? And what does she say? What does she say? She tells them, if I am in the state of grace, may God keep me there. If I am not in the state of grace, may God bring me there. Those are not the words of a 19-year-old, uneducated peasant girl. Those are the words of the Holy Spirit of God being sent through St. Joan of Arc by the Lord himself. And when they bring you before the civil magistrates and the church authorities, do not prepare your defense beforehand. I will send you the words of wisdom that not even your enemies can resist or refute. The span of time between the writing of St. Luke's Gospel, right here, this morning, and on up to the time that Jesus marches in on a horse of victory again, is known as the time of witness. The time of witness during which you and I, those of us who follow Christ, bear witness to him, bear testimony to him, by the words that we use among one another and by the example of our lives. This is not the end time. That is not yet. This is not the time predicted by the doomsdayers who speak about the rapture, when cars begin to crash into one another on the highways because the drivers have been whisked off into the heavens by the rapture. This is the time of testimony. In 1917, many people thought that the world was coming to an end. World War II was running at full tilt. One day the skies grew very dark and the sun began to dance around the sky. Cosmic happenings, and people thought the end of the world was at hand. In October of that year, 1917, 3 small children gathered in a field just outside of Fatima in Portugal, along with 70,000 other people, some of them believers, others of them true skeptics. You see, the children had said that Mary, the Mother of God, was going to appear to them. Well, it would not be so unusual if she did. After all, being the mother of all humanity, she would take a motherly interest in our earthly affairs. But not only that, because the beautiful lady from heaven, as the children called her, had appeared to them before, on April 13th, on May 13th, on June 13th, on July 13th, on August 17th, and then again on September 13th. The Blessed Mother didn't go to the grotto on August 17th because the children had been thrown into jail. They refused to recant their testimony before the civil magistrates that Mary had spoken to them. During the course of those earlier apparitions, the Blessed Mother said something to the children that makes us stop and think about how we should lead our lives before the second coming of Christ. The Blessed Mother told the children that if they prayed the rosary, then the present World War, which was World War I at the time, would end in a little over a year. Sure enough, the children prayed the rosary, and in a little over a year, World War I ended with the signing of the armistice on November 1918. Given that, it would seem that world peace is governed more by prayer than by politics. But the beautiful lady from heaven went on to say something else. She told the children that there would ensue on planet Earth an era of great peace if everyone on earth turned back to God in prayer. But, she went on to say, if the whole world did not turn back to God in prayer, then there would be another and worse world war. In other words, according to what the Blessed Mother was saying, World War II need never have happened, and World War III will not happen if everyone turns back to God in prayer. You see, we do not know when the world will end, but in the final analysis, in this age of testimony, we are sure that nations everywhere and individuals everywhere will always be engaged in war one way or another unless they turn back to God in prayer. The cruelty with which nations treat other nations and individuals treat other individuals will never be ended by war, but will only end with a time when people everywhere and nations everywhere listen to Mary's Son, who issued the invitation, "Come, follow me, for I am the way and the truth and the life." Amen. I believe in one